So today I want to walk you guys through a process that can seem a little bit daunting for some people at first, and that is, how do I set up my web server on my local computer so that it can use HTTPS like other websites do? Well, I'm going to go through using MAMP as the web server and how to configure it with SSL so you can use HTTPS on localhost. So here's the website right here, mamp.info. And you can download MAMP from here. There's a whole bunch of different flavors of MAMP, so you're going to have to find the one that you want. The latest one is usually all that you need. And then, once you have it installed, so I'm going to go over here into Finder. I'm on Mac right now, but most of what I'm going to be doing is going to work just fine on Windows as well. It's going to be the same process. So we come down in here, and there it is. So I've installed MAMP. I've been running MAMP for a while. I have two folders in my applications. So inside of applications, there's MAMP and MAMP Pro. Now, MAMP, this is the free one. MAMP Pro comes with a whole bunch of other features, and it comes with tools for helping you to configure things like virtual domains, mapping of domain names to certain folders, setting up HTTPS. But we're just using the free one here, MAMP. And they'll say that you can't really do this with MAMP, but as long as you know the settings that you need to change and how to configure it, you can use the free version of MAMP to run HTTPS. Now, the one limitation to this is you will be creating a self-signed certificate. So if somebody else comes to your website, they're going to get that warning saying, hey, you know what, do you really want to trust this certificate? The guy made it himself. If you don't care about that, if all you're looking to do is test your websites and your web apps that you're building on localhost and you need to use HTTPS to make sure that's working fine, this is going to help you out. So inside the MAMP folder, there's the MAMP program itself, and that is really just this program right here, start and stop button for turning Apache and MySQL on, and that's mostly what people use this application for. It's just you come in here, you start up the application, and then you hit the start button or you hit the stop button when you're done. We're going to be editing a couple of configuration files inside of here. So inside the root folder, we go to configuration, we go to Apache, and inside of here there's the httpd.conf file. This is the configuration file for Apache. And inside the extra folder, there's another one here for SSL. So these are the two configuration files that we're going to be working with, httpd.conf and httpd-ssl.conf. So we'll be coming back to those a little bit later. Now before we do that, what we need to do is we need to create a folder and actually generate our SSL certificate. Now I have a folder here. This is my user folder. And down inside of here, I've created a folder called SSL. And here's all the different parts that I need to get SSL working. So we're going to only be creating manually two of these files, v3.ext and server.csr.cnf. Those two files, and then a few command line commands will generate the rest of this so that we actually have our certificate and we can run HTTPS. Now, if you can't find your user folder, so if it's not in your favorites, if you're looking for that, in Finder, we'll say go, and you can say go to folder. And the one I want to go to is tilde. So go to folder, and then the tilde character, that is your user folder. Inside of users, that's the one I wanted. Users, Griffiths, here it is, that's the folder. And you can take this and you can drag it into your favorites. So just clicking on here, dragging it over, will give you a shortcut to that folder. Okay, now inside of here, we want to create a folder called SSL. This is where we're going to do all of our work. Now in the terminal, I'll clear this out. If I say cd tilde, there we are. This folder is this one right here. It's my Griffiths folder. If I ls, There we are, there's my SSS folder. If you don't have one, if you haven't created it here, you can do it from the command line, make dir SSL. That will create this folder. Once you have created it, we want to go inside of it. There's all those files that we were looking at before, right here. These are the files that we want. And we can, through here, like we can open up Vim and we can edit it, but really you can use any text editor that you want to create or edit these two files. It's these two right here at the end. These are the ones that we're going to be creating. So server.csr.cnf and v3.ext. You can create them through your text editor, or one quick way to do it is with the touch command. That will create an empty file that you can then open in your text editor. So you can do touch v3.ext and touch server.csr.cnf. Boom, creates the two files. Alright, let's jump over to brackets where I've got the two files open. So here's v3.ext, and I will put a copy in the comments of these two files for you guys. I will create two code gists, and I'll put the links to those code gists inside of there so you can just take this and edit as you see fit. Make it easier than typing all this out. And here's the contents. So what we're doing is we're defining how we're going to be using SSL, the settings that we're using to create our certificate. Okay, now that we have these two files created, you've copied the code gist, you've created the files, you've paused the video to create this and copy the contents in. Now we're going to run a few commands. So the first one we want to do is open SSL gen RSA-DES3, and these are the flags that we're setting, and then we have to say where we're going to be generating our private key. So we're generating our RSA certificate, and this is the location, so ssl/rootca.key 2048 is the key size. Hit enter, and you will be prompted for a password. Now this is the password that is going to protect your private key. This is not something that you want to lose. You need to have that to create the public certificate. So this command here, and what I will do is I will put a copy in the comments of these commands so that you can copy and paste them in as well. So this is going to generate our private key, and remember the passphrase that you use, the password that you use for this private key. After that's done, we're going to open SSL requisition x509-new nodes key using our SSL root CA. That's CA stands for Certificate Authority. So we are acting as our own certificate authority. And we're going to say that it's going to be good for 1,024 days, so almost 3 years. By that point, if you really need another one, you can generate another one. And then where are we going to be putting this? There we go. So this will create your root certificate using our certificate authority signing key. Okay, that gives us that. And again, I'm going to be pasting these few commands into the comments so you can copy and paste. It'll make it much faster for you to do all this. Once the root certificate's created, then we want to create the private key for our certificate. This is going to be the server.key file. Right here, this server.key. That's the one that we are going to be creating. So yeah, open SSL again. rec-new-sha256 nodes-out server.csr. new key RSA 2048, key out, server.key, config, bracket, cat, server.csr.cnf. So this is using our settings that we created before. There we are. That creates that file for us. So that was the private key for our certificate, the server.key file that we generated with that command. And almost done here. Open SSL x509 rec-in server.csr certificate signing request ca, and then we have to point to our ca.pem file, the one that we created just 2 commands back. Using our certificate authority key and ca create serial to generate the server.crt file, which is going to be good for 500 days, we'll say. SHA-256 and v3.ext is the one that's going to be used, and this will generate for us our server.crt file. Alright, so I'm not rerunning these commands because I've already got these files generated. I don't need to recreate them or overwrite them. So that's the files generated. Now to verify that this is working, x509-text-in server.crt. Oh, and I always misspell SSL. There we go. So this is what we got. I've actually run this final command because it's just the verification. This one should be generating this certificate, and what we're looking for inside of here is down here, the x509 subject alternative name DNS localhost. If you see this stuff with the x509 down here at the bottom, we're good. The signature algorithm, there we are. We're good. Our key works, all of our commands worked, and at this point we actually have the things that we need now to run SSL. So the rest of this is just going to be editing the configuration files. So we want to now let Apache understand what it needs to use and what it doesn't need to use. So opening up those 2 config files, httpd.conf and httpd-ssl.conf, and we're going to be looking for several things inside of here. So let's look for, first of all, load module. Now there's a whole bunch of modules that get loaded in, and the one that so this is one that's commented out whenever you see the hash mark in front. We're going to be looking for this one, the SSL module. Make sure that this is uncommented. So if that's uncommented, you're good to go for using the SSL module, and that's the thing that knows how to read the certificate and use the certificate. So now we want to look for in here the httpd.ssl. There we are. So looking for httpd.ssl, we want to make sure that this line is uncommented as well. So there's no hash mark in front of the include for the SSL. Okay, that part done. we're done with the first file, the httpd.conf. Just I want to double check the server name. Oh, and it is case sensitive. There we are. Server name. Yeah, right here. So localhost, that's the one that they're using by default, and we want to make sure that there's a colon 443 after this. Sorry, that was the last thing that we needed to do inside of here. httpd.ssl, you're going to be looking for this virtual host. Now here you'll have something, it looks like something like this, default. We're going to be replacing that with an asterisk. So you're saying everything over port 443. We're good to go with that. So we've got that. We want to find the listen command. Make sure it's listening on port 443. So first thing was the virtual host. Second thing is make sure the listen 443. And we'll head back down to the virtual host. There it is. Now inside of here, what we're going to be looking for is that we've got document root. This is the location where your web files. If you wanted to change that to someplace else, you could. But this by default is going to be pointing to, I jump back, applications, I find MAMP, htdocs. So this is where I have all of my different folders and so on. So that's your root location. Server name, localhost 443, that's what we changed in the other files, so we're matching that. SSL engine on. Make sure that this says on and it's not commented out. And then the last part is we need to say where the SSL certificates are located. So you'll see there's an SSL certificate file, an SSL certificate key file. These are the two things that we need to locate. Now, that SSL folder that I created, /users/your username, so your username, this is the part that goes in front. And then after that, inside the SSL folder, the SSL certificate file is server.crt. That's one of the ones that we generated. And then the SSL certificate key file, same folder, but it's server.key. And that's it. Save those changes, and then we want to restart MAMP, so we'll stop the servers. We'll start the servers again. We'll be prompted to allow this to make changes on our system. And you have to put the right password in for your computer. Start servers. And that'll restart Apache and restart MySQL. There we go. Got the two little green lights. Now, if we jump back into the browser, here's localhost MAMP, and this is running by default HTTP. That's where it is. But now, because I've got those certificates, I should also be able to do HTTPS. And there it is. Sure enough, it's working. Now this certificate, I'll get warnings about this thing. The first time I use it, you'll be prompted to say, hey, are you sure you really want to trust this? And you'll say, yes, go ahead and trust my certificate. I trust myself that I'm not trying to hack into my own computer. All right, so a lot of things there. I will create code gists for those two files. I will put copies of the commands that you do run on the command line to generate the various certificates and files. And hopefully with the instructions that I've given you there with those two config files, you will be good to go. Now what I will recommend is that you make copies of your config files. Before you start editing them, make sure you've got backup copies of them, because as soon as you've got one mistake in a config file, Apache will not launch. It will not run anything. So make a backup copy of your files before you start to do this. All right, thanks for watching, and good luck.